welcome to my channel. My name is Mia. Today's video is going to be a tag, and this is a special tag. This is going to be the anti-bully Readathon book tag, and that was originally created last year by Elena Reads Books. I will link her original video down below in case you would like to check it out. But I thought it would be fun to go ahead and do the tag since I'm super excited to participate on the readathon itself. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to be reading the questions from my notes because some of the questions are a little long and my memory horrible. The first question says, what is your favorite story containing themes of bullying? And that was an easy one for me, and I think it's kind of very predictable, but my favorite story ever that will have to be the Harry Potter series. The entire story is amazing. I love it. It's my favorite story that contains bullying. Harry Potter by J.K. Rowling. Question number 2. Hermione Granger in Harry Potter gets bullied for being a Mudblood. What is your favorite story containing themes of cultural, racial prejudice? So I don't want to use the same example again, although that is my obvious answer, but recently, it's not my favorite story or book, but it was a pretty good book. I ended up giving it 3 stars, and it did have a big racial bullying factor in it, and that was Bag of Bones by Stephen King. That entire bullying aspect was kind of unexpected for me. I didn't know it was going to include that, but it certainly did. Basically, the entire story revolves around that bullying scene that happened. That's what created the entire story, basically. So it is a big hidden factor, I would call it, in the story. That was a very emotional scene. Question number 3. Bullying can make people feel small, but everyone is significant to someone. What is a small book that is significant to you? This one, I had a hard time picking just one because my most significant book ever, the book that I would just be completely destroyed if I lost it or if something happened to it, the one book that I would take with me if there were to be a fire or a catastrophic event happening, is a childhood book that I've had since I was like 3 years old, and it's so precious and so important to me. But since it is a book in Spanish, I don't believe they have it in English. I don't believe any of the works of this particular writer is translated to English, so I picked a couple more just to give you something that you could actually relate to. Anyways, the book that I love with all my heart is called La Edad de Oro, and it's a very thin, it's a small book. This is by Jose Martin. I've had this, like I said, since I was 3. Like, the pages are all completely separated, and you see, like, it's completely falling apart, but it's my most precious thing in the world. It's the first book my dad bought me when we were in Cuba, you know, still living there, and he would read it to me all the time, and it's just very precious to me. It carries a big emotional factor in my life. So anyways, this is the main answer that I have to that question. Now, I picked, as I said, a few alternatives as well that I also adore. This is another one of basically childhood kind of books. It's one of the first books I read once I got to America, and it's called The Witches, and it's by Roald Dahl, and is illustrated by Quentin Blake. And I love this book. I love the story. I've read it several times since the first time I read it, and I love it. So this is my second option. And a more recent one would have to be Sold by Patricia McCormick. This one was a recent one, and it was just such a wonderful story. When I first read this story, I was in one of those moods when you're just like, oh, boo-hoo me, my life sucks, my life is hard. And then you read this and you're like, wow, how selfish and naive and stupid I can be. So it was a big eye-opener for me, and it's a small book as well. So there you go, 3 books that I love that are very meaningful to me and are very, very small. Question number 4. When I feel low and want to cheer myself up, I read a book or genre that will make me smile. What is that book or genre that does that for you? So for me, I don't have a specific book, I guess. For me, it's mostly a genre, okay? Or a couple, but usually when I'm feeling very sad or kind of like down and depressed or whatnot, I tend to gravitate towards romance stories. I feel that they just kind of cheer me up a little bit, just to read and get lost in this just romance, and you know, like almost unrealistic romance in a way, you know, this kind of romances that don't really happen anymore. I don't know, but that's the kind of stories I like to read. Otherwise, I will have to say basically comics. They kind of distract me enough and entertain me enough. But mostly just like romance, a good romance story. And I usually tend to gravitate toward any of the Nora Roberts books. I like the way she writes her stories. I feel they're not just romance, but there's usually something else in the story, like suspense or stuff like that. Like, it's more entertaining than just very, very cheesy romance, which I've read and I also like, but I really do gravitate towards Nora Roberts books, and these 2 I'll have to say are basically my favorites of the ones that I've read, and it's Black Heels and High Noon. So that's my pick-me-up kind of genre. Question number 5. Bullying is not just physical, it can be emotional too. And what was the last book that made you cry? Now, keep in mind, I cry very easily. I can relate to characters and small situations very easily, and that makes me emotional. I cry because it makes me so happy for the character, or because I feel so frustrated for what's happening to the character, or because it's sad. Like, I cry easily when it comes to stories and books and movies and things like that. Now, that being said, the last book I read that really made me cry, as in bawl my eyes out, like horrible crying, like you don't even look cute anymore, it's just disgustingly ugly boogers and tears everywhere crying, and that was The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. I just found this devastating. I cried so much with this story. It was just, I don't know, but it just made me cry like no tomorrow. So this is definitely the last book I read that had that effect on me. Question number 6. When you hear someone is being bullied, you need to be someone who can be there to support them, to find the right person to talk to, and not feel alone. What is your favorite superhero, superpower person, and why? Or another question with a few answers. So, a superhero with superpowers that I love will have to be Spider-Man. Like, he's not just this black or white kind of superhero. Like, he has his own internal struggles, and I just really like his character a lot. I love him. He's one of my favorite superheroes. My favorite superhero doesn't necessarily have any specific superpower, but that would be Batman. I love Batman. That's my favorite one. Then followed by Spider-Man. But I also have real life heroes. I think real life heroes are very important. Real life hero is my father. I love my father. He is such an inspiration for me. His life has been so hard and he's had to overcome so much through it, and he's so strong and kind-hearted, and I don't know, I feel that he is just my biggest hero of all time. Even though he doesn't have any superpowers, he's just such a wonderful, kind person. So anyways, those are my superheroes, fictional or non-fictional. And the last question, number 7, is just who do you tag? So I tag anyone who will be interested in doing this tag. I think it's very important that we bring more attention to the subject of bullying because it's very real, and I thought this was a great tag. So thank you, Elena, for making this tag. That is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you very, very soon in another one. Bye!